Too often people go out for a high yield plot or figures on maybe half the farm or something, and if it fails, why, it's rather costly. But going out on a small plot, most anyone can afford it, and we like to run a plot like this for about 5 years consecutively, and any improvements that we get with any practice during that period of time, we will incorporate in our regular production on the entire farm. So I think it's quite important to work with something like this on a small scale and kind of feel your way out into how what your optimal yield figure can be. We have accurate records on the amount of fertilizer and extra things that we have applied in the cost items, and from there we can easily figure out whether or not it has been profitable to go into this type of program. And doing it on a small scale certainly gives you the advantage of not taking that great risk. I think as farmers we're all interested in making more money, but certainly you have to have all these other things along with it, and know that the economics of it is right, or you couldn't stay with it very long. I think the soil management is the greatest thing at the present time as to whether or not we're going to be able to increase this productivity, which is going to be needed in the future, as fast as possible in order to feed the world, which apparently we're going to have to do to some extent. It's rather a challenge, having worked with soils for so many years, and one of the things I learned when we first came here, that the productivity on this farm was very low, and that we would definitely have to improve it if we were ever going to make a success out of this farm. And I think we've had some degree of success with it. In fact, I know we have, and most of it has been due to management of soils and crops themselves. And when you see these things in other communities, you'd like to share a little bit of this information with other people that might, the people in the future might take advantage of it.
The world record corn yield of 370 bushels per acre that Herman Warsaw produced in 1985 is impressive in its own right. But even more significant is the fact that he has a 15-year average of 274 bushels per acre on his high-yield test area. This even includes several years of low rainfall. He has indeed set a challenge for other farmers and researchers.
I think he does three things that allow him to attain such high productivity. I think he's a skillful cultivator, and he grows his plants in 28-inch rows instead of 30-inch rows. This gives him an extra 6 rows per acre without changing the inter-row distances. I think that his long-term soil buildup program has resulted in a soil tilth that favors exceptional root growth. Then these deeper and more robust roots are able to take up water and nutrients more, which results in a larger shoot and hence a larger yield. But I think the most important thing that Mr. Warsaw does is that he wants high yields. He strives for high yields. He plans ahead. He's out in the field. He knows exactly what's going on out in his fields. With any living thing, a crop plant requires attention, and the more attention you put into it, I think the more you're going to get out of it.
High soil test levels on these fields are important. Herman has developed a deep profile of high fertility. Even in dry years, the corn roots can take up adequate nutrients for high yields. With the high soil tests, Herman continues to apply maintenance fertilizer for his corn crop. He wants to be sure fertility is not a limiting factor. The total nitrogen applied in 1985, for example, was nearly 500 pounds per acre. But that is approximately what current recommendations would suggest for a 370 bushel yield level.
I had plots just next to the one that he set the world record with, and it seems to me, Harold, that, well, there were a number of factors, and I think probably the most important one was that he had ideal rainfall distribution. I think he had something like 24 inches from May through September, and he had ideal distribution, and as a result of that, it seems to me he had tremendous growth compared to years that I've seen in the past up there, like 1983 when he had drought conditions, 1984 he had less rainfall. So it appears in that particular environment which he's developed for this particular hybrid, in those years in which he gets adequate and ideal rainfall distribution, he's going to hit these large yields, or high yields, like 370 bushels. But I think in years in which he has somewhat of a deficiency in rainfall, or a less desirable distribution of rainfall during the growing season, he can still get 250, 260 bushel based on past experience. So I think what this points up, he's developed an environment there that has the potential for 350, 370 bushel yields, but in years where rainfall is not as adequate, he still has the potential for 250, 270 bushel yields. I think that's the important take-home lesson.
That's exciting to have somebody challenge us at least with those kind of yield levels.
Sure is, yeah. I agree with you.
Annual production costs for Herman's high yield area are considerably higher than average. But with 370 bushels per acre, the out-of-pocket cost per bushel calculates to only $1.25 per bushel. These costs are based upon University of Illinois data for custom rates for field operations. Even if we add a land charge of $130 per acre, the production cost comes out to only $1.60 per bushel. There's still profit to be made in corn production with these kinds of high yields.
Well, I'm kind of tapering off a little bit. I'm thinking of the 400 level now.
You think 400 is possible?
I think it's entirely possible now. At the time a few years ago, I began to think it wasn't possible because we were more or less in a stalemate with the dry weather conditions. But since we've gotten the rainfall here we had this past summer, it looks to me like it's entirely possible to reach the 400. Some of the things I think we were building up to during those dry years, we were changing some of our soil conditions, and especially in water infiltration and water holding capacity in our soils. And since we had reached this point, and we did get, which was not exceptionally heavy rains, we got enough more rains to prove to us that we were heading in the right direction there. And if we were to get up to 30 inches of rainfall during that growing period, there's no doubt in my mind but what it'd be possible to reach that 400 level.
While 370 bushels per acre may not be practical for most farmers today, this record still tells us that there's potential for increasing corn yields and profits with high yield production. We can all learn from Herman Warsaw's high yield challenge. Are people reluctant to believe this yield level, or are they accepting it?
I don't know. It seems to me it's just been a little hard to determine, but most of the people seem to have accepted it much better than they have in the past. Of course, quite a number of these people know me and know what I've been doing. They rather expected it. But to actually prove it out to the people makes it a little more difficult.